Frank Vogel fired? Are the Suns in trouble? If you didn't see the news, Frank Vogel was fired as the Suns head coach. Now, I actually made a video talking about, is it time to break up the big three, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker, in a video maybe like last week or something? And you guys made that video perform so well, so thank you so much, by the way. Let's try to get this video to outperform that one. But the firing of Frank Vogel only adds on to the question marks and the lack of continuity within the Suns organization. Look, I'm not in the locker room. I can't speak to whether the players actually liked him and if he's like the greatest coach ever, I can't speak to that. But I felt like he was definitely not given a fair shot here. Based on what the team had, like based on the entire season, they were not healthy. Bradley Beal was never healthy. Like he got healthy here and there, but he was never fully healthy. Devin Booker was out for a while. Kevin Durant was the healthiest of the three. And we all know the roster construction had some issues. So I feel like he did the best he could with what he had. Again, not saying he's perfect and not saying he didn't make mistakes, but we all watched the Suns and none of us, or at least a lot of us, I don't think thought it was the coaching. We thought it was one, lack of continuity, no chemistry, health issues, and just the roster construction, like I said, it's not fitting together. Do you remember how the whole season, the Phoenix Suns were basically leading the league in blowing fourth quarter leads, or just blowing any kind of chance they had to win the game in the fourth quarter? They were a minus something crazy, and it wasn't even close to anybody else. So what I'm saying is, when you have that kind of stat, it can't be the coach. Like, I'm not saying his rotations were perfect and he didn't make mistakes, but if you're blowing double-digit leads, like basically what you're saying is in the first half, the coaching didn't matter when you got that big lead, but then in the fourth quarter, it's his fault because you blew the lead. That doesn't make sense. And I'm not blaming anybody here. I'm not blaming any specific player. What I'm saying is he should not be blamed for what happened. Now, do we expect the coach to be fired after a team flames out in the first round the way they did? Because of their championship aspirations, the coaches usually go first before any kind of players. So it was unfortunately expected. I feel like Frank Vogel, in terms of his resume, this should not be a blemish, so to speak. And I'm not saying people are saying that he's not going to get another job because of this. I haven't really seen that, I haven't really seen that chatter. Maybe it's out there, but I haven't seen it. I'm just saying personally, I feel like he did a good job with what he had. And I feel like it wasn't really his fault. But again, this adds to the question marks around the Phoenix Suns. Because we saw a report that the Suns are going to try to keep the big three, like they just want to keep them together. And while that may be their, their wants and hopes, there are still so many question marks because there is no continuity, no chemistry on the team. And there is something to be said about firing and hiring and firing and hiring coaches all the time. Not saying the Suns are doing that constantly, but we see the teams that have the most success have the continuity. The Warriors, Steve Kerr has been there for a while. Greg Popovich has been on the Spurs for a while. Eric Spoelstra on the Miami Heat. The list goes on. And not only is the coaching changing, but the players keep changing. And not just someone off the bench or something like that, like major player changes. And I understand they did not win the championship in 2021, and because they want to win, they have to make moves. So I'm not saying they shouldn't have made any moves. What I'm saying is you swap Chris Paul for Kevin Durant was there with Chris Paul. You swap Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson for Kevin Durant. Then you swap DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul for Bradley Beal and Nurkic, and there was just no time to build chemistry. And I don't wish them to not succeed. We would love to see every team do well in the NBA. But this feels more like it being forced to try to, work it out instead of just rebuilding and accepting it did not work. Let's start over. Let's get some draft picks because we have no draft picks if we're the Phoenix Suns. We have no draft picks until 2030. They don't own, in case you didn't know, they don't own any of their draft picks from 2025 to 2030, first or second round picks. They have a couple of pick swaps, so yes, they will get a pick technically, but they don't own it, so they get the worser of the pick. They get the worse one of the pick, worser. The point is they're in no position to pay anybody because they have no money because it's locked up in Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker. They have no picks, so they have no leverage to maybe move one of the players that are on the roster and package them with a pick. Can't do that. So to me, I just feel like the firing of Frank Vogel maybe shouldn't have happened. And again, I am not there in the locker room. I'm not there in the organization. So again, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, if the players, don't like him, or if like he's not getting along with management, or they were seeing things that we didn't see, or we don't know. So, take it with a grain of salt. But what I'm saying is maybe it would have been just better to keep him actually, just so there's some continuity and chemistry and the players know what kind of sets he's going to run and they have familiarity with him, because that matters in order to win a championship. And we've seen the reports, Mike Budenholzer is a candidate, and we obviously know he won a championship with Milwaukee. And I've seen a few other people as candidates. I think Tyronn Lue was a candidate. Well, the Lakers wanted him. I don't think Tyronn Lue's going from the Clippers. I don't think he's leaving the Clippers. But I think the Lakers said they love Tyronn Lue, and it makes sense. LeBron, Tyronn Lue, Cleveland. Anyway, the point is, there are other good coaches out there. That's not the problem. But again, turnover doesn't necessarily mean better. And there's only so many more opportunities you're going to get, because it's just, there's a lot of up-and-coming teams, like OKC, who is playing right now while I'm recording, a young team who's playing very well. The Minnesota Timberwolves, up-and-coming team, they have a lot of time left together. And you have some of the other teams who maybe got knocked out already, but are still going to put themselves in position to be a championship contender as well. You have to beat all of them. And again, you have no money to build your bench. So in the end, do I think the firing is a mistake? Maybe, maybe not. Like I said, it could have been better to just keep him for continuity, but at the same time, look for the coach that you feel like suits your team's needs the best. I'm not the GM or anything like that, so that's their opinion. I'm just saying it's a little bit of a mess right now in Phoenix.